All right, we have just another minute or so. Let the last few people chime in and sign in. Keith, have you done any radio spots with that radio voice of yours
No, no.
lately?
It's been plugging away at the desk.
All right. Too busy making a living to make a different living?
That's right. Yeah. Got my COVID booster.
Oh,
Yay.
yeah.
Anything. So, Mike, do you want to kick this off or should I?
I can. So it's about 10:01. We'll get started. Welcome to the Texas Motorcycle Safety Coalition quarterly meeting. Just for kind of a note here, this is actually the first meeting of the new fiscal year. So this project is funded through a TxDOT grant. So we thank TxDOT for providing funds. It covers us putting on the coalition meetings. It covers us putting on the forum, attending events. We do all the social media and everything under that larger umbrella of that grant. So it's the first meeting of the grant year. So we're kind of excited. It's a brand new year. We've got some fresh ideas and stuff like that. So we're really looking forward to this. What I would like to do is just if we go to the next slide, I'll show you the agenda for today's meeting. You won't get to hear my voice. I know Keith has this really great radio voice. He should actually go through the agenda, but you won't hear me for too much longer. It'll be Kathy for most of today, with me kind of interspersed here and there. So the good news is you won't get to hear my voice the rest of this morning. As you can see, we have there's a few introductions. What I would like everyone to do, so we do use people. We collect match money. It's sort of a virtual thing, and the way we collect that is by letting TxDOT know how many non-TxDOT and non-TTI staff attended the meeting. So if you get a chance, if you would just sign into the chat box in the lower right corner of your screen, that's where it appears on mine. There's a little chat circle. If you just type in your name and maybe what kind of motorcycle is your favorite motorcycle, that'll get things started, and then we can just use that as documentation back to TxDOT. I won't have a chance to type it in, but my favorite was the Triumph Street Triple that I owned. Really quite a wonderful bike. So, cool. Thanks, Maurice. Thanks, Amy Jo. Okay, next slide. Okay, just a quick refresher. We go through this every time, just as a reminder. If you would just stay muted when you're not talking so that we avoid some of the background noises and echoes, and I'll do that myself because I think I hear it through my system right now. If for some reason you're unmuted, please don't ever put us on hold because then we get the elevator music in the background. So that helps us keep the distractions down. As usual, if you have a comment, please do just unmute yourself. You can raise your hand virtually, unmute yourself and chime in. This meeting and all of our quarterly meetings are really informal and we really love that interaction. So do unmute yourself and ask your question or your comment, whatever it happens to be. Or you can just enter it in the chat window. Kathy and I are trying to keep track of that and go back and touch on those comments that have been posted in that chat window to bring them forward to the larger group. That's for the people maybe who are a little bit more shy and don't want to speak to a larger group. So As always, if something comes up, if you have an idea that you want to share with us, please do send that idea to us afterwards. If it's too big to share here in the meeting, or you think of something afterwards, Kathy will put her email in the chat window. If you just copy that out, you can send stuff, any comments and stuff to her. Keith, his favorite was a Kawasaki Concours. I need to become familiar with what bike that is. So sounds interesting.
It's almost exactly like my ST 1300 from Honda. They were companion, almost the same type of bike. It was really cool when my husband had the Concourse and I had the ST. His was gold, mine was silver. Went traveling around with them. It was really nice.
It's a great touring bike, 7-gallon gas tank, so you can really go a long way with it.
7, that's a monster compared to all motorcycles.
Yeah, 50 plus pounds right up on top when you
Right.
feel from a low gas tank to a top one. You got to remember to change your counterbalance.
Okay, next slide. Jack, I think you're running slides. Thank you. Okay, the chat window appears in different places depending on how you signed in. Mine appears in a little round box in the lower right-hand corner, as I mentioned earlier. Some people may see a display a little bit more like this with a circle at the bottom, more toward the center. Basically, the chat window icon just that circle with kind of the comma-looking shape on it. Or you can raise your hand. The other thing you can do to raise your hand, I believe, is just mouse over your name, and I think you can right click and that'll bring up a raise your hand feature. But again, it's pretty informal. If you just unmute yourself and let us know you want to chat, we can chime in that way. Okay, next slide. Okay, so here I'm going to turn it over to Kathy for a little bit. Kathy?
Mute always helps. So want to thank those of you that have been a part of the task force as we've been trying to focus in on some specific topics. And our topic was the rider impairment. So our goals for that or their goals. The task force is really just a group of people that have a little bit more time, not a lot, but to really help us brainstorm and come up with some ideas and help us kind of focus some outreach and education, and then TTI will kind of get behind that and help support moving that forward. And for this one, it was in impairment. So the idea was to develop strategies and materials to improve the outreach and education on the subject. But first, we want to find out why. Why do people do it? As well as what's the best way to reach people? What type of outreach and education would be acceptable to the riding community? So that's kind of where we're in the process right now. And then from that, just develop those strategies and materials and deploy it statewide. So appreciate the work from the task force. It's been kind of a little bit of a dry spell, but we are trying to move that forward. If you're interested in becoming a member of the task force, right now we are very small. Please, so can you turn up my volume? I can yell louder. I don't think that helps my volume much. If you'd like to be part of the task force, just drop me an email and I'll reach out and kind of give you some more information on it. So James, you said you've been waiting on it since the end of May. What have you been waiting on?
It's a cheap dark horse Indian motorcycle he's been waiting on since May.
Oh, okay. Sorry, had to go back a couple of things. So, okay, but that's the task force. If you are interested, please, you can capture my email out of the chat and let me know, and I will add you to the task force mailing list, and we will get some information out to you. We hopefully can get a little bit more work going on this year, so it's going to be just maybe a couple more meetings more than what the coalition itself is, as we move forward. So, Jack. So some of the other things we're doing this year is Mike kind of touched on some of the things that the TxDOT grant money is doing in support of this coalition and some other special projects that we have going on. One is the strategic action plan for motorcycles. Those of you that have been around for a while, we had one that's expired, kind of took us through this year, and we're pulling one up to begin the next 5 years. Mike can give us a little bit more information on that in just a minute. We also try to do some of the events. COVID kind of knocked a lot of the events out, but we are trying to do just a few of those still and get out with the people in doing some outreach and education. And then, of course, the big one is the forum and this coalition itself. So some of the expectations for this year, I know with COVID, our whole world has changed. So looking at what do we want to do as a coalition? How can we become more involved? How, when are we going to meet? What are we going to talk about? How do we grow the coalition? How do we actually make it more impactful to improving the safety for motorcyclists in Texas? So that's something we'll get to a little bit later in the meeting. And this meeting is very much a planning and setting expectations meeting. So again, we put in this how to use the chat box. This picture looks a little different. Like Mike said, mine is actually down in the far right-hand corner of the screen. The chat bubble pulls it up. You're talking to everyone. Enter your chat here and it'll come up. We really need you to use that to help us capture the information and to be able to kind of vote on what we want to do. So we're thinking perhaps of sending out a survey after the meeting with your ideas so that we can kind of fine tune and plan for the year. But this is your coalition. We're here to help and support you. But we need you're the one driving the boat. We're just the motor pushing from behind. So please give your input and be very forthcoming today during this meeting. So, Jack?
Okay, I'll jump back in just for a second. I want to just give you an overview of what the motorcycle strategic plan is and the value of it and what we're doing with that this year. As you may see, there are things that happen in motorcycle rider safety on different levels as part of this project and as part of a lot of activities across Texas. Sometimes there's direct outreach with riders, like when we go to an event. Sometimes, we're holding these coalition meetings. Those are things that happen like directly with riders. There's a need though to set kind of an overall direction for what motorcycle safety activities should happen in Texas. The Motorcycle Strategic Action Plan is that document that sort of sets that high level vision of where we need to be in 5 years and what activities should happen within that 5-year time frame to get there. So we developed the 2016 to 2021 Strategic Action Plan. We actually put it together in very late 2015. It was published by TxDOT in 2016. It's a really valuable document because what happens is TxDOT, for example, looks at that document and says, well, this is what was cited by the research and rider community as being important elements to pursue over the next 5 years. So for example, they may look in there and they see unlicensed riding. So then they can think through, well, then we need to fund some projects on how to increase licensure amongst riders. They will look at it and see, alcohol is a consistent problem among riders. The more than, about 50% of the fatalities involve alcohol, and the average
quite that many.
And the average blood alcohol level is
170.
How many do you think will work at this? That's 170. Yeah, I guess they have Lake Patrol too, which used to be its own police department, but it's part of San Antonio PD now.
Yeah.
Okay,
So
so
everybody to have 170 people.
if you have any
Wow.
meetings, please do. There's some discussion going on in the
How
back.
do you think would actually work? And he's like, I've already.
There we go. Okay. So the strategic action plan, while not something that, is something that we do directly with riders, it is something that's used on a programmatic level to help guide funding, to help guide projects. It can also be used by groups and clubs to say, well, these are the priorities. We can align our activities to improve rider safety with what's going on in the state. So instead of one group doing something over here and another topic being conducted over here and so on. And, not a lot gets done on any one topic, a little tiny bit gets done on a lot of topics. If we start to align these goals, then we have a much greater chance of changing behaviors if everybody's kind of working in the same area. So that's the purpose of this document. This year, I've asked Melissa Walden to step in. She works extensively with what's called the Strategic Highway Safety Plan. This is a document that TxDOT has to put together, and it also provides a high-level direction for safety activities in the state. So basically it says, here's an objective, and this is why it's an objective. For example, motor vehicle drivers have an overrepresentation of alcohol-related fatalities. We need to reduce it, and then they identify some strategies to do that. So having Melissa involved in developing the strategic action plan for motorcycles is really beneficial because she can better align what's going on in the motorcycle community with what goes on the state level. And that's really helpful when it comes to, for example, statewide funding for motorcycle safety programs. So that's the reason for bringing Melissa in on that. And then Kathy Brooks as well is going to be involved in that development. My last comment is that the strategic action plan is not just developed by TTI and kind of without consultation with the riding community. In the next couple months, we're going to be contacting y'all and looking for information from you. It may be as simple as just giving us some feedback on kind of the prioritization of different objectives, like should we prioritize alcohol-related countermeasures over, say, unlicensed rider countermeasures, things like that. But it may also include more in-depth discussions. So as Melissa gets a little ways along in this path of developing the strategic action plan, it'll be really important to get your feedback on what she's doing. So I do want to, I'm going to put someone on the spot. Kenneth Copeland is on the meeting today. He's in our NHTSA Region 6 office, and I'm just wondering, Ken, if you have a few comments on the importance of that strategic action plan and its development.
Sure, I'll be glad to speak to that. I'll tell you, because of my position in our region, I do get to work with all the different states on motorcycle safety issues. And I've been real impressed over the years with the Texas group and how y'all have come together and worked together to identify from the biker perspective what's going on in the state and to get recommendations. And I think that's very important because for y'all that ride and have been in the community for a while, sometimes motorcyclists can be the most difficult people to reach because they have the strong opinions about different safety issues. And it's very important from coming biker to biker saying this is what we need to do to improve safety. So I'm really excited with what is done here in Texas with this group and with this plan. And Mike, excuse me, if you don't mind, I'm going to go ahead and make an announcement.
Sure.
I will be retiring December 31st of this year. So this probably will be my last official meeting as it's a representative. I've really enjoyed it. I've got to meet a lot. When you bring up Melissa, I don't know how long I've known Melissa, a very long time. but I've got to meet a lot of great people. I've enjoyed getting to work with everyone on the program. I think I was here when this project began, and I'm excited for where it goes. Also, we do have Exentrius on the phone. He will be the new point of contact for motorcycle safety for Region 6, and I think y'all will really enjoy working with him. But I have enjoyed all this time, and who knows, I may still come back as a private citizen at some point.
Good, that'd be good. Thank you. So Ken is a rider himself, and I know at least like Becky Walker is a colleague of his, and then it's a Region 6 office, and she's a rider as well. So we do have really good representation from the motorcycle perspective in the Region 6 office, and we really benefit from that. We get a lot of good information from them. We get support for the forum from them. So thank you, Ken. Congratulations. So we, just as a follow-up, we will be contacting y'all with questions and information about the strategic action plan. Again, it's pretty important from that higher level in helping to determine what types of projects get funded, what types of projects should be moved forward, et cetera. So when we do contact you, please do help us out. We try and keep the contact pretty minimal, and the questionnaire is pretty short, so they're not too burdensome. So that's the update on the motorcycle strategic action plan. Kathy, I'll turn it back over to you.
I will take way too long to find my mute button, and hopefully my voice will come through a little more clearly. One of the other things that we're working on this year is our events to do motorcycle safety awareness and outreach and education. We've already attended 3 things that aren't, a couple of them are not necessarily official events, but we attended the Westlake Classic Car Show for the first time. City of Westlake actually reached out and asked if we could come and set up a booth at their 10th annual Classic Car Show. Also found out they do their Pinewood Derby for their scouts. So it was a big city event. And it was nice to be there. We've also did the Laura Higgins and Maurice Muncie went to the, if I can remember this right, Mid-South Mile in Dallas, and did a replay of the Family Feud game that we did a few years back at the forum. That also was by request. So had a chance to interact with some riders there and spread some interaction from multiple states. And then this month we also went and saw the Lone Star, participated in the Lone Star Rally in Galveston, and I think they estimated like 300,000 to 400,000 people were in the Galveston area for that event. And we had a lot of people stop into the booth, and some of them are even here today. So we welcome you as new members of the coalition. So on this list here are some of the other events that we have put on the list of some of the other events that we put in as potential events for this year and submitted to TxDOT. We need to come up with probably 2 more events to meet the requirements of the contract. If you have a preference of which ones you think might give us the most impact, or if there's one that you'd like to come help out with, please drop it in the chat and we will definitely get back out to you on those. Also, TxDOT has asked about other events. Are there other events that perhaps TxDOT you think might be able to take their big inflatable bike or some other outreach on their side to events across Texas? If you have any ideas of rallies, events, outreach that they might be able to do also, please drop that in the chat box and we can pass that on. So Mike, can you give me a thumbs up if my voice is coming through okay, or if I'm having to stretch to hear?
Yep, everything's fine.
Cool. We have a toy run in December, early December, that we've been asked to come to as well. That one we're looking for some help. It's, I believe, starting in Temple and going to, Laura, please help me out if you can pull it up, or if you're on the call here. Go.
I think Amy Jo's on, yep, Lem passes. There we go. Amy, I know Amy Jo's on the call. Yeah, there we go.
So yeah, it starts, I think, in Temple and goes to, can't remember where it ends.
Lem passes.
Lampasas, thank you. So if we have somebody in those areas, we can send materials out to you if you wouldn't mind being there as they collect and take off. The things that we're concerned about is that's a ways for staff members to go for what sounds like it's going to be just a gathering time for an hour or so, maybe on each location. So Amy Jo, please give us more information if that's not the case, but that's kind of our understanding of what it is. We're going to gather here, so there might be an hour or so that we might be able to interact, and then everybody's going to go on their run, meet up at the other location, and there might be a little bit of time there, but that's kind of scattered and a little more difficult for us to support. But we do want to give as much support as we can. So if we have any local writers that are going to be there that can kind of help be the representation for the task force, we can get the materials out there to you.
Kathy,
Yes.
this is Bruce. I'm the chairman for the Tri-County Toy Run. We're expecting anywhere between 1,500 to 2,000 people. And the motorcycle ride will start at the Frank Mayberg Convention Center in Temple and runs to the Lampasas City Park, which they have a large facility for us to stop in. Like I said, on the average, we'll have like 1,200 motorcycles. This year, we've got 14 volunteer fire departments. All the police departments between Temple to Lampasas are involved. DPS is involved. And this is actually the first year that we're going to provide some information booths, and that's where TxDOT comes in.
Okay.
Okay, I'm having a really bad connection here, so I don't know if you can hear me or not. I've been trying to troubleshoot from this end, and 2 sets of earbuds aren't working, and I can't get it to work properly. But anyways, if you can hear me, yes, okay. If you got any questions, and so far we're taking in donations, and this is looking to be a pretty good year. We'll probably donate in the neighborhood about $40,000 or something like that.
Sounds great. Okay, we will see what we can do to get some materials out there to help support that.
Yeah, Mona Lisa's already, she's going to be out here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, she's coming out here, and I've got some people tasked to help her get things out and set it up. And plus, we've got motorcycle missions coming, and Texas Grand Tours. We don't allow vendors there, but what I brought the point up was, what about information? So everybody agreed with it. So this is actually a test bed. This will be our 29th year. And I've been the Santa Claus for 18 years. So it's a pretty big deal in this area.
Okay. And are you looking for those booths to be set up at Temple or at Lampasas?
Temple.
Temple.
Mona Lisa, I've already been coordinated with Mona, and she's all set. I don't know. She's set to go. And I don't know if you can hear me, but I just got a message on my system that my power is going off. I'm about ready to, and I'm a retired analyst. So the system about ready to drive me up the wall. But no, you're breaking up, like you're coming in and out. So I hopefully everybody can hear me.
We can hear you. Thank you. We'll dig into this a little bit more. Thank you, Bruce.
All right.
We're getting rain here that we weren't supposed to get, but hopefully I have enough that's not power dependent that I won't get lost. So, Jack, next slide. Again, any other events, just drop them in the chat box. So our next big project idea is for the forum, and the forum last year we had in May, trying to kick off the Motorcycle Safety Awareness Month, which was a great idea, and everybody else had the same one. So when we picked a weekend, it seemed like half of the motorcyclists in Texas were out on rides that first Saturday in May to bring out Motorcycle Awareness Month. So this time we're going to reach out to you. We're thinking of pre-May, so maybe an April date time frame. If what we would be asking from you as being out in that community is, are you aware of conflicting events going on in that time of May? When would be the best weekend that we could set this? If the weekend is the best time to do it. I think one time we used to try to do it during the week, and attendance was a little less. And when we moved it to the weekend, it got a higher attendance. But we really need to pick that date this
Kathy,
week, so we can kind of get it started going.
Kathy,
Yes,
can
sir.
you hear me?
Yes, sir.
This is Bruce again. I'm fading in and out. Every year for the last 10 years, I've been holding up in this area what I call a Do You See Me Now Motorcycle Safety and Awareness. And it's always the last Sunday in the month of April, right before May. And I try to get the communities involved by getting the mayors to declare proclamations for the month of May. So I'll start that planning after I get through with this toy run.
Okay. That was the last Sunday of May, you said?
No, the last Sunday in April.
I'm sorry, April. Okay.
Yeah, it's always held on the last Sunday in April, and the toy run is always held the first Sunday in the month of December.
Anybody else know of events going on mid to late April that might be of conflict? April Saturdays are 16th, 23rd. We've got 5 to choose from in April, so we might send that out in a survey, see which one is the best. If you know of any, please send those in to us. So our next question, thank you, Jack, is virtual versus live versus hybrid. Last year, because of COVID, we went to a virtual, which really gave us the opportunity to reach out and bring in speakers from across the country and have more presenters available to come in, to record it, to put it online, to have it on our YouTube channel. People could go back and look at it after the fact, and it's still there. So we'd really like to try to keep that available. We had many people who said, I can't come to it live, but I can come to it virtually. When we have a live event, we're a limited because of cost on if we do bring in a keynote speaker, we may be limited just to be able to bring in one. There has been some consideration for a hybrid. Can we have a live event, but we can also have a part of it that's virtual where we have speakers for a particular session that are virtual? And then can we try to record part of it as well? So those are some of the things we're thinking of. Again, we need your feedback of which do you think would be the best best option, and we can start looking into that.
So,
Again,
Kathy,
Kathy is going to be a part of this.
so, let me jump in just for a second. So with the live versus hybrid versus full virtual, we're really aiming for the hybrid version of this, because there are several advantages to having a virtual component. Probably the biggest advantage is that we can bring in speakers from all over the country for basically nothing, right? They dedicate their time, they put together their presentation, and then they stream it live to us. When we do just a live event without a virtual component, we often don't have the funds to fly in and bring in all of these external experts. So we're really aiming for at least the hybrid approach. The second reason for the hybrid approach is because you do get that face-to-face interaction with other riders and other experts and stuff. So that hybrid approach is really kind of where we're aiming. The virtual kind of eliminates that face-to-face, of course. An only live event doesn't allow us to bring in all the external speakers as easily. So the hybrid is really the way to go. The challenge we have is that some of the companies that provide the kind of the online conference services are just really starting to adapt and get into this hybrid approach and trying to figure out how to do it best. So that's really the challenge we face, but that's a challenge on our end, and we're working through that now with a couple different vendors to really trying to explore how they can best accommodate our needs. So.
And as Maurice said, we all want an excuse to ride to a meeting. So along with that, something else to drive is what type of topics. So is there a topic that you would like to see at the forum and potentially somebody that could speak to it, whether it's live or virtual? Please drop it into the chat. We will take that information and put together a survey, a poll to kind of see where they are and start reaching out. But if we're looking at putting this on in May last year, we started a little late in the planning because of COVID of the forum in May. This year, we'd really like to get started earlier and get on people's calendars, make sure that we have those people available and can really build a good forum and have the ability to reach out to the community, to share the word, save the date early and so forth, so that we can get everything lined up and really have a forum better than we've done in the past. We always want to get better. We always want to reach more people. And so please, we've got a few suggestions coming in. Thank you, Charles. Anybody else, please put into the chat. Thanks, Jude. Somebody did suggest earlier maybe hearing from TDLR, and you just said that too. Also about how training is going to happen for instructors from TEACS was another one that came in earlier. Thinking both about the motorcyclists, what kind of things do they want to find out? And some of it has been, we've done it a little bit before with Stop the Bleed and with the road guardians and accident scene management of what do you do when you're out on a ride and somebody in your group does have a crash? How do how's the best way to do that? We'd rather prevent it, but we also we want to know how to deal with it as well. And then also looking from the motorist perspective, what are some topics or what are some things to reach out a little bit more to the motorists and to have that awareness out there? How do we build that community together to be looking out for each other? How do we interact in other, or how do we cross over other sectors? How do we share the road with others? Where are some struggles that you find as you're out riding? What are some things that you've encountered that you are like, how can we make this better? It didn't feel safe. So we can kind of bring some of those ideas. So please just keep throwing them into the chat. We'll call through them after the meeting, get a survey, and try to have it sent out within the next week. Anybody else have anything to jump in for the forum?
Hey, Kathy,
Yes, ma'am.
this is Mona Lisa. So what I'd like to do, maybe is kind of put some feelers out to all the TSSs across, the state, and just kind of get a feel. What do they want to see? Because most of them do not ride. They're motorists, but they're out there doing motorcycle safety events. So I'll put my feelers out and see what kind of suggestions we get, and let you all know.
Thank you so much. Very, very much appreciate that.
Yeah.
Anybody else? Something comes to mind as we continue to brainstorm, please drop it in the chat or send me an email. So back again to our growing our coalition. Laura, I think our last count was 200 and some odd members of our coalition. Is that still out there? Sorry to put you on the spot.
I think it's at least that many. I think I think we're kind of in the midst. There's a few more that are on the mailing list that we're kind of going through to make sure that those contacts are still correct. But yeah, I think it's definitely over 200. My best guess.
So we have, thank you. So we have over 200 members of the coalition by our mailing list. There's about just over 30 people at this meeting today. And if you think about how many of us are from TxDOT or TTI, TDR, some of the stakeholders in government side of it, the actual membership is kind of low that are participating. So how can we improve that? How can we get people actually involved, engaged, and giving their feedback? We'd really like to get some help with that. What you're seeing on the screen, those lists, that's what's listed in our coalition charter as the people who are encouraged to participate in the coalition. So if you belong to one of those groups, great. If you know of somebody else in one of those groups or a different group that's not part of the coalition, how do we reach out to them that you think they might be interested? How do we reach out to them and invite them to be a part of this, to be a participant in this? And how can we improve our impact on safety across Texas roadways for motorcyclists? Another thing that we're doing quite well, Michelle Canton came on working with Jack. Jack's the one that's running our slides today, so thank you to him. And Michelle's taking our notes. But they've really done a lot in the last few months, the end of last year and starting this year, across social media with Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube, as well as the Look, Learn, Love website. we're reviewing that and seeing how we can help that become more user-friendly and more impactful. But we need to get people to go to those places. And so that's where reaching out to those of you that are participate in that social media, like, follow, share, anything that we can do to kind of get that message out there further. The more people we get following those pages, our pages or social media feeds, and the more shares we get, the more likes we get, the more we're getting that message across to both motorists and motorcyclists. And so the outreach is very much about, and Michelle, I hope I'm not stealing your thunder. It's very much about trying to meet all those sectors. Do we have tips for riders? And we try to make them relevant to the time for the riding season. We have tips for motorists to share the road, to look for motorcycles, to understand motorcyclists. Why do we act the way we do on our motorcycles when we're on the roadway? Just because we're moving in a lane doesn't mean we're driving crazy. We are doing what's necessary to be seen, to miss an object or obstacle in the roadway, even if it's just a manhole cover that doesn't have an abrasive on it or a non-skid on it. So helping understand each other in the community to help build that community of roadway users. So if you know of anybody, please share. Michelle shared some links on the chat that you can see some of our feeds. Please invite people to come. If you know of somebody that's on the coalition that they haven't been to a meeting in a while, reach out to them, see if they're still interested. If people aren't interested, that's okay. We understand. And if life changes and you move on to the next thing that takes up a lot of your time, but we'd really like to have as many people that are in the coalition to be actively involved in the coalition. Ronnie, can members join Look, Learn, Live at events like booths? Yes, please. If you are at an event or a booth, one of the things that we're doing, we would love for you to come. You can even volunteer and be the one that's talking to people. Please, yes, if you see an event or that we're at, come hang out. We can let you know what events we're going to be at. I know Michelle just did that with the Lone Star Rally, and you'd like to volunteer to come help. We'd love to have you. Sometimes there's more than, if there's just one or two of us, maybe three at a booth, we may all be talking to somebody and there's somebody else that's kind of waiting or walks by because they don't want to wait. So yes, please come join us. Anything else that I saw or missed on the chat?
Nope, great job.
Right.
Kathy,
Yes.
please continue sending the short videos because I do post those on some pages that I monitor. And I have had people making comments that they really like those videos. They're short, straight to the point. So it does work because people are asking me about it.
Okay. You can also, if you're talking about, excuse me, the short videos on what riders know and where the gear, those are all available under resources on the Look, Learn, Live website that you can download yourself and use and share throughout your other feeds as well. Thank you, Bruce. Anybody else?
Can I say one quick thing
Yes, please.
about the social media? If y'all are sharing the videos directly from our pages, once you share them, if maybe you could tag us, and our tag on Facebook is Texas Motorcycle Safety, and then our tags on Instagram and Twitter are Look, Learn, Live. So that really helps us get the message out and helps us see who's sharing what. and then we can interact in that space. And then we can also, it helps us build our, who we follow, so that we can share other states that have messages, other organizations that we follow like AMA and those things. So thank y'all so much.
So Michelle, can you drop those tags into the chat box so people can copy them out?
Sure will.
Can you get a chance, please? Or we can include them in the notes that go and get posted as well. So again, we appreciate you all being here on the meeting. We appreciate your participation. And we'd really like to build the coalition with more members like you. But we need your help to do so. All right, Jack. Our last topic on the agenda for planning for this year is to set our next coalition meetings. We try to set up a coalition meeting each quarter. And of course, this is our first quarter meeting. Our next quarter meeting is going to be somewhere in January through March. And so if we want to use that meeting for planning the forum, we need to do it probably early January or mid-January in order to have the time to be a planning meeting for the forum. Otherwise, it's going to be other topics. So first question would be, for the Q1, January through March, what month would you all prefer? And excuse me just a minute, a cough hanging at the back of my throat. So Jude put out there January 6th. Keith says January later in the month. In January, we have, this is January. January's Thursdays, we have the 6th, 13th, 20th, 27th, and that's Amy Jo says later in January.
Later than January, because around here that's early spring and people are starting to get their bikes out.
So the 20th, does that work for pretty much everybody?
And we'll double check if there are any other statewide events and stuff as well, but we can definitely do late January. That 20th is a really good day. And again, we're doing it that early. Normally we would have our quarterly meeting another 2 months beyond that, but we really, by that point in late January, we're really going to be at a stage where we need to make some final decisions on the upcoming forum, because the forum is in the April timeframe. So that late January will work out really, really well for us to get feedback from you all on some of the things we're planning. The other thing we'll do with the forum planning is to connect with the motorcycle task force and run some ideas past them. So they're another resource for us to use. But that 20th will be a really good time to run some of these preliminary ideas and get some feedback from you all on the forum. So that'd be really good.
And then we can solidify by the end of January and get everything moving forward.
Do we have a projected location? Do we have a projected location?
So,
Mike, you want to take that one?
Yeah, in the past we've used the YO Ranch in Kerrville. We have done it in Austin, but there seems to be a consensus that people like the kind of that Kerrville area because if they want to ride there, it really provides some good routes, some scenic routes and stuff. And we're happy to go somewhere else. I think some riders are like, Austin is, it's all city. So a lot of us don't really enjoy riding in, Dallas and Houston and Austin that much, me in particular. So Kerrville seemed to be a good spot. If there are any other recommendations, we can certainly look into that. We've used Wyo Ranch in the past, and to be honest, they've been really, really good and very cooperative with us in the planning. So, but we can certainly look at other places, Corpus or really anywhere in the state.
Well, Kerrville has been really good. Every time I've ever been there, it's been nice and comfortable and peaceful.
Yeah, yeah. And that hotel staff, the conference staff, boy, they are. I don't know that we've had any complaints at all about them. They have just done an outstanding job with us. They really, really nice. Really a lot of credit goes to them.
It's also very central, so people aren't having to go from one end of the state to the other. They can all kind of meet in the middle. So, okay. So we'll kind of look at that meeting to be forum planning. If you have any other ideas of topics or speakers that might add to that, if it doesn't take the entire meeting, we're open to that as well. And then the quarter 2 or 3, rather, April to June. There is a consideration for to have that, if we are having that live forum meeting, backing up the coalition meeting the day before the forum, so you can come in that day before, have a live forum instead of a virtual, and then stick around for the forum, and then have a great ride back. Any thoughts on, because I know we've had some requests in the past for putting these meetings back to the live version, but again, the virtual version really does help get more people, hopefully. And not everybody's having to drive just to College Station, or in this case, Bryan, as Relis is now in Bryan. Any other thoughts?
I think to me, the question is, like, as riders, would you be, the difference is coming in, say, on a Friday for the Saturday forum, or coming in, say, late on Thursday for a Friday coalition meeting, and then staying for the forum on Saturday. I know it's a little bit different. Some people like to spend a little bit more time away, and they wouldn't mind doing the Friday and the Saturday versus just a Saturday. But is there any major objections or issues with either just coming in for one, just the forum, or coming in for both the coalition meeting and the forum? And Maurice says hybrid would let us that want to come and still let far away people join. Yes. So yeah, and we're definitely looking at trying to do virtual for both of those. So. And Jude likes the idea of combining both the TMSC meeting and the forum on consecutive days. There was one before that. Jude had.
Having them back to back gives you 2 days of meetings, makes the long ride in a little more reasonable.
And James, it would be in Kerrville. Okay, so we'll look at combining those two. I think it'd be really beneficial because there are some activities for the strategic action plan that we definitely would really like to have you all help us out with. And that would mean digging into some of those strategic action plan topics in greater depth. So I don't want to use the term breakout groups because that sort of puts people off, but having people really focus in on a particular topic, and Melissa put those together and stuff, and that would be really helpful for us as well. And maybe somebody can organize a ride. I know TTI is the kind of organizer of the events. We can't sanction or organize a ride, but if somebody informally wants to organize a ride for Friday afternoon or something like that, that'd be great. That would help kind of facilitate this idea. People are coming into town for the conference, the coalition meeting, and they can get some riding in as well.
Michael?
Yeah.
Can you hear me? I don't know, but
Yeah.
some people may not realize that that's where the Twisted Sisters is. And that's kind of a tricky ride, but there is a section of it where there is a motorcycle museum that people could visit. And it's not a hard ride, and it's a pretty ride, as long as it's not raining. I got stranded at a gas station for about 8 hours when it rained out. But it is. You're right. It is a pretty area, and Bandera is down there. Nice area.
Okay, cool. All right, so we're on our end, we'll get in touch with the motorcycle museum to find out when they're open, and if they're, I know they're not open every day of the week all year long, so we'll contact them and find out when they're open.
Well,
if it's limited, we can find out if they're open for a day or an afternoon.
I'll volunteer to help. You know, if you guys, if you need some help, I'll be more than happy to volunteer.
Okay, cool. Thank
Do
you.
whatever you want me to do.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Thank you. So the final meeting, our kind of a wrap-up meeting for the year, Q4, July to September. This last year we did a September meeting that was kind of a review of what we did for the year and kind of what we anticipate for the next. If that sounds good to everybody, we can kind of keep it in that September timeframe. If not, the other ones are kind of earlier in the year. Would you like to put it up a little bit earlier and have more of a working meeting? Speakers, do it earlier in July or August. I know August gets hot, so is September. Kind of during our summertime. July, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, Thursdays. We've got 4 weekends in July, or 4 Thursdays, I'm sorry, in July for this meeting. And the same for August.
I think we'd want to look at a mid to later July to kind of avoid the July 4th activities.
Beginning of August before school starts. So we can look at that one for end of July, 1st of August. I remember when school used to start in September and then it got put back to August. Is it gone beyond August? Is anybody trying to go to school in July yet? I think they gave us a 2-week summer vacation nowadays. All right, we'll look at the beginning of August, see what some dates are there and send something out. Being that earlier in the year, please give us some feedback. What, maybe even a little bit later, what are some topics? What potential speakers would you like to hear from? This year in September, we heard from a couple of people. Please go on and look at some of their presentations. We had Chiara, I'll not remember her last name, that did some research at TTI on barriers and poles, things where they're a hazard to motorcyclists. They're not considered in the engineering, and so they're doing some engineering to consider the motorcyclists to keep them from going over barriers, to protect them from going and sliding under barriers and hitting posts and things like that. It was a really nice presentation from her, as well as from Cody Stewart on the driving or riding licensing and training outreach that he's been working on. It's a program that this coalition helped start a few years back in giving some focus and feedback. And that work is continuing, and he'll be continuing it again this year. So there's a couple of ideas that we might have. If you have any other ideas or thoughts of subjects that you'd like to have, please let us know. We'd like to get it in, or at least start it earlier rather than later, so we can give people a chance to prepare. Anybody else, or Mike, did you have anything to add on meetings, dates, topics, and agendas?
I don't think so. I guess the one final comment is there are a few people that I have a few groups of people or types of people that I'm interested in bringing in. One is from judicial branch. So if we can get a judge or prosecutor or something to talk about, what happens on that end of kind of the legal spectrum. And I'm thinking particularly in terms of unlicensed riders. So it's a significant problem in Texas. But almost half of all fatalities involve a rider who does not have a motorcycle license. So, I know law enforcement has some challenges when they pull an unlicensed rider over. So it'd be interesting to hear from law enforcement and then also to hear from a judge. So if the rider does go to court, what happens and what are things that maybe we might be able to provide the courts as a coalition to help judges make better informed decisions about what to do in that case. So that's one thing that I'd like to work toward this year. There's a little bit of these other areas that we traditionally don't hear from in the coalition, but that I think are pretty necessary. Yeah, and law enforcement as well. We've got really good connections on this coalition with some law enforcement officers, and we can certainly bring those in as well. And it's a really good perspective, because we've heard from some law enforcement that, for example, lane filtering and lane splitting is not legal in Texas. So when it does happen, the law enforcement, though, oftentimes they may just let that person go. First, it's a challenge trying to, in really heavy traffic conditions, when that does occur, that they can actually get up to and pull that person over. And sometimes they just don't, they may not ticket as enough as we think they should. So it'd be interesting to get their perspective, and maybe there are certain things that need to change on a policy level to help law enforcement better deal with unlicensed riders and such. So.
Michael,
Yes.
do you remember back when DJ was with us, there was a speaker that came, I guess I want to say Kirk, or he was in politics, but I just can't remember. But he was really active. He was proactive. He wrote himself. Do you remember who I'm talking about?
Yeah, Kirk Watson, Senator Watson. Yeah.
Is he still around, or?
He's
No?
around.
Okay.
He's not in the Senate anymore. He's at I want to say it's a university. He's working in public policy at the university. I forget exactly. I have to look it up. But yeah, it was Kirk Watson. He was really a strong advocate for rider safety and rider programs. In fact, he's the one who sort of behind the scenes initiated the transfer of the motorcycle safety program from DPS over to TDLR. So,
Yeah.
but we do need to find out what other policymakers are typically ride and who express vocal support for rider safety.
Yes.
And they're probably members. So Chris Sharman, he was at the University of Houston Hobby School, and then he left for another job. Okay. So we do need to find who the other kind of motorcycle rider friendly politicians are and maybe get them to join us or get
Yeah.
their aides. Oftentimes it's easier, like in a coalition meeting like this, to get their aide to join us. But yeah, definitely.
Mike,
Yes, sir.
Bruce again. The name of that museum is called Lone Star Motorcycle Museum.
That's right.
It's down in Vanderpool. The other issue, I know a judge, and he is a bike rider, and I will approach him and see if he would be interested in
Okay.
coming on board with us.
Yeah, what we're looking for is just a really informal discussion on kind of their experiences with the law and enforcing the law with riders. And it doesn't have to be just on lane filtering and like splitting. It can be on impaired riding or unlicensed riding or really anything.
Okay.
Thank you. That would be wonderful.
I'll-
Jude mentions the
I'll do a
contact.
follow-up. I'll do a
Okay.
follow-up later on email and let you know what status is.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
All right.
Jude mentions contacting Chris Ward, TC, OCI, to see about their efforts with motorcycle profiling, particularly in this last session. Yeah, that would be helpful because I'm sure they have some contacts. So happy that's one thing to put on our list is to contact Chris. And we have to be careful with the coalition too, just as we cannot and Ken Copeland from NHTSA can clarify, but we cannot advocate for certain policies, and so we can't sort of Ken don't know the right term, but we can't advocate for certain priorities or policies. But what we can do is inform legislatures and others with data about these different options. So motorcycle helmets is a hotly contested area. We can't go to the legislature and say the TMSC said you should be everybody should be wearing helmets, you should change the law, etc. But we can certainly provide data to them that in our case would show the benefits of wearing a helmet over not wearing a helmet. So it's a fine line that we cross, that we kind of walk here at the TMSC. Is we can't get into the advocacy area, but we certainly can inform people. So.
We also had, or who said it? Amy Jo. So medical, EMS, trauma units, those are some other areas also that we've been considering is what do they see on their side of motorcycles and how can we help or even give information and education to the bystanders and everything else. So thank you, Amy Jo. Anything else on our meetings? That wraps up for what we have. And so we have open forum. Anything that you have to share with us? Any updates? What's been going on? I know it's not sitting around the big conference table to share and talk in the hallways. So tell us what's been going on and what we can bring up.
Yeah. And I do want to kind of open it up first to text out Mona Lisa if you have any announcements, or to TDLR. I think Ford, you were on the line earlier. If you have any announcements, feel free to chime in and add them here.
I'm good here, Michael.
Okay, thanks. Hey,
So,
Ford.
Michael Strawn from TDLR. Hey, how are you doing, Dr. Rancer? Really, I don't have a lot of updates today. I will point out that as of September 1st, for those that aren't aware, we did have additional rules that came out, some clarification stuff. So I would advise people go to our website. On the top hand side, you can go to motorcycle. When you're a motorcycle, there's a news section that will have information about our latest rule set that came out. And of course, on the right hand side, you can see and view all of our laws and rules regarding those programs. And as always, we tell people sign up for our listserv at the very top. There's sign up for updates, and you can select the motorcycle program. And anytime there's new rules, new updates, or anything that we're doing in the program, just make sure that people are aware of anything that's going on. But we are going out, we are talking to people to make sure people are aware of that. And we do, when we're doing our audits, we make sure we educate folks about the changes in the program as well. Other than that, that's all I have.
Thanks, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, other comments, announcements, or discussion topics?
Yeah, I do have a couple of, since I got in a little bit late, I had an appointment this morning. I just couldn't get out of it. On when we get motorcycle instructor training up and going again, whenever that may be, is there anything that prevents TxDOT from providing more information on their digital signs, saying that if you're interested in being an instructor, would that contact this website or this number? And that's something that we've never approached before, but in the past, it's very, very hard to find information on this unless you're really looking for it. And at this point, we have a dire need for instructors. Personally, I don't mind working my ass off trying to train new riders, but at a point, I'm only one person. Not everybody does as many classes as me a month. So, is there anything that prevents us from utilizing the TxDOT digital boards?
Yeah, so Mona Lisa, I don't know if you are able to comment on this, or maybe I know Maurice and their former TxDOT employee, but maybe have some perspective on how available those, I think they're called dynamic message signs, are to putting other types of information on, safety related information.
This is Ken Copeland. I don't think
Okay.
TxDOT would allow that type of information to be put on those message boards.
This is Michelle Canton. I've worked on several construction projects, and they don't typically will add anything unless it's related to construction or one of the safety messages that they promote.
And that's correct. They're pretty strict on what they put up there. However, it's we could always look into it. I mean, if it's a safety message, then we can definitely look into it. I mean, it's not going to hurt to ask, but they're pretty strict on it.
Are they strict? I guess I'm wondering why they're so strict on it. Obviously, they don't want to put advertisements, and they don't want it to be a stream of different groups and information and stuff like that. I wonder if that's the reason why they're so restrictive and so careful about what they have on there. But I do like the idea of Chris's idea of we need to find a way to kind of get that word out in a much broader fashion than we are currently. So I was thinking of some of the, when Lisa and I are talking about the signs, the yard signs that we stick in the ground. And those, maybe we could put information on one side about rider licensing, and the other side is information about the coalition like we traditionally have. But yeah, we definitely need to get the word out.
Yes, I agree. But with those signs, because I know that with the motorcycle campaign for 2021, they made another sign. It wasn't share the road, but it was, I forget, it was look twice or something like that. And they were yard signs, but the lettering was so small. When you're riding, you're just not going to see it.
Yeah.
Basically, I'm just looking at something to be, would reach a broader audience than what we currently have now. Because, you know, outside of directing people to TEEX or, you know, through TDLR site which would redirect them to TEEX, you know, it's very vague and obtuse as far as trying to find that information for anybody that's interested. And we need something with a broader scope that, you know, reaches more of the public.
Has there been any big push to put that out through the clubs like the Confederation of Clubs, Christian Motorcycle Association, Harley Riders Association groups? I mean, that's going to get the word out to a large band of interested people.
Yeah, I have no problem showing up for a COCI meeting, you know, and putting that out there. I know Jude wouldn't have any issue with that as well. You know, I just don't know when the meetings are. And, you know, if you let me know, I can certainly ride to one. It's not a big deal.
Yeah, Confederation of Clubs and all, probably they have regular meetings. I haven't looked at the website, but I bet they're on the website.
Well, I think there's enough of this though on the coalition, and I'm sure I'm the only one that's running a page, but I pump that information out every chance I get. And I think others can do the same thing, using the social media, Facebook pages or whatever else. I mean, I've got 3,200 members myself. So some of those, and that's one of the reasons why I pump out the videos that are posted.
I don't know specifically who to call Jude to, or to email to become a rider coach. Can someone provide that information out to the group on who the point of contact would be? And I'll be glad to, like I said, put it on my personal email, send it out to different groups I'm affiliated with.
I recently joined the Ride Texas web forum, and I was thinking once we get to the point where the classes are being held again, we can certainly share it out there. Anywhere that y'all have an idea to share it, we appreciate that. I was wondering, Mona Lisa, if sometimes billboard buys are not extended, and so they'll leave up the text dot messages if they don't get picked up by someone else paying for the billboard space. I wonder if maybe billboards might be an option once the time would be appropriate. Just a thought.
Good thought. And they're always an option. Again, it just comes down to money, what's in the budget, you know?
Well, let me ask you, Mike, you know, with when they do the motorcycle awareness safety information, can that be tied somewhere into that as well?
I'm sorry, I missed the first part of that because of background noise.
Okay, so, you know, as far as getting that information out there, you know, could we tie that in with Sherry Mathers as far as the advertising agency to add that along with the safety message as well?
Yeah, I think Chris Sharman's on the phone. He might be able to provide some information there. Yeah, everything's possible. Well, lots of stuff are possible. It's just a matter of getting it figured out. I know with the contracts that, for example, that Sherry Matthews has and that TTI has, it's a yearly contract with TxDOT. So in fact, we're right in the phase of writing proposals right now for work that would start in October of 2022. So another 8-9 months away. So we would have to include that now, and then that work wouldn't be able to start until October. But once it gets started, then there's this, you can kind of continue with it, subsequent proposals. So we can look to do that. The other little kind of hiccup here, there's a difference between recruiting students to take the course and recruiting instructors to be, or recruiting people to become instructors. And we've had conversations with TxDOT about this and independent conversations with TDLR. So with the kind of the instructor training and student training, that's kind of now a TDLR thing. And TxDOT is still very much interested in promoting training and licensing and all that. And we have some projects, but the TxDOT funding for that part of it isn't very big. So I think the challenge, what I'm getting at is we have to look at the funding issue and see how we could best put together one or more sources of funding in order to make this happen. So it's unfortunately it all comes down to money, you know, and how it's allocated. So, but we can start to look at that, and I can talk with Chris Sharman at Jerry Matthews and Mona Lisa and Ford, and maybe come up with an idea of how we might do that. Now, the project that we have currently with TDLR is looking at ways to what can we do from a education and outreach standpoint to recruit more people to become instructors. Because, as you said, there's a massive shortage of instructors right now. We're right in the middle of analyzing the survey data that we collected, and that's really going to provide us with a lot of really good insights as to what are the factors that motivate riders to become instructors, what motivates instructors to not instruct anymore, as well as instructors to stay. And that'll form the basis of a campaign that we will then use to help hopefully increase the number of instructors in Texas. So there is a separate effort underway with TTI that's funded by TDLR to help get more instructors. So that's a positive thing that's in the works right now.
You know, Mike, if it's a matter of money, you know, how about writing up a grant proposal to TDLR? Because
That's
that
really,
is open.
yeah, it's certainly possible. Yeah.
And this is more directed to, you know, to Michael Strawn, and I saw Ray Carvano was also on from TDLR. What is the current status of training? I know it's at a dead stop right now, but is there anything from TDLR that is working on a workaround?
So, Chris, that's a really good question. We currently, you know, as everybody knows, with TTI, we have a contract with TEEX regarding instructor training. We renewed that contract in September, and we're currently in discussions with them regarding the resuming of classes at this point in time. I know that my leadership is planning on having another meeting with them coming up soon. We are still pursuing that, still hopeful that they will begin training again here very soon. We have looked at other options, you know, but as you all know, statutes declares that instructor training is still provided and administered by TEEX at this time. We are, of course, always looking at our options, much as we develop our out-of-state applicant processes. You know, we're always looking at every option we have to serve this community. But we are actively working on that, and hopefully we'll have something to share with you all sooner than later on that front.
Hey, Michael and Chris, I was just wondering, there seems to be a big interest in people wanting to become instructors and coaches out there, me included. TxDOT is very supportive of sending me or getting me going through the course. But so I was just wondering, is there any way, since there's just to get or have somebody write up, okay, this is what needs to happen, step 1, 2, 3, you know, and the, you know, websites, emails, how much, where's the next class, that type of thing?
Well, there is up to a point, and that's what I've been trying to point out. That information is very buried unless you're really looking for it.
Right.
And unless you actually get with a sponsor that knows something about the program and how it runs, they can walk you through the process. I know that, you know, when I became a rider coach, it was years ago, and Terry Graham was, you know, my lead with the DPS. And he laid it out. He didn't lie. You're going to spend a lot of money. It's going to take you a lot of time to get it back. You're going to spend a lot of time doing this. And, you know, he didn't sugarcoat any of the process. But back then, the process of going through it, you ended up doing a number of observations, working with the sponsor. You went ahead and submitted your application, did your fingerprints and all that stuff. And by the time, you know, I did my RCP, you know, I'd already done 20 observations. You know, I felt fully comfortable, you know, teaching a class and doing range. But unfortunately, the DPS saw, whether, you know, through its infinite wisdom or whatever, I don't know. Yeah, I don't understand the process. They did away with it.
Yeah. I will say, Chris, I mean, one thing that we're always trying to do is make sure our website's more friendly, easier to read, and easier to navigate. Certainly, if there's something that we can do, at times we put things at the forefront. So if training resumes, you know, we can talk to our website team about making sure that there's appropriate banners or, you know, buttons there that are easily accessible and identifiable for individuals. Of course, Dr. Manser talked about us all working together. As you all know, we're happy to work with you all on any front. Certainly something as far as, you know, seeking and obtaining new instructors for the industry. We hear this a lot. You know, I just spoke at a conference this past weekend, and you know, it was one of the biggest topics that came in. It was one of the biggest issues we had when we obtained this program, and currently area. We are committed to that in any way that we can make that easier or get that information out. I know that my team and the TDLR staff is dedicated to doing that.
I got a couple thoughts, Michael. When you get to that point, as far as putting, you know, as far as a search engine or search, when putting keywords for that, you know, saying Google or, you know, Firefox or, you know, whatever, if that could be either the number 1 or number 2 hit when you key in motorcycle training in Texas outside of the rider program. But for the instructor program, you know, say, do you want to teach, or, you know, do you want to teach motorcycle safety or something that would tie those keywords into your site?
Yeah, I'll be honest. When it comes to, you know, how to promote yourself within Google, that is something I would defer to my web team on. You know, I'm sure that they're much more well versed in making sure that you know is something that happens or pops to the forefront of that. You know, I get a lot of individuals that come directly to me that are coming from MSF's website, you know, because I'm listed as a state coordinator there, or Total Control's website that often are seeking to become instructors as well. So that's something, as you know, that we could even reach out to any approved curriculum providers that are out there, you know, directing them to our site as well if people are interested in teaching that curriculum in our state. I know our partnerships with them have been very good. They've been open to a lot of things too. So that could even be something that's potential.
Okay. Yeah, I've got a couple friends that do social media and stuff like that, you know, if your people need help, they can contact them. So
appreciate it.
So thank you, Chris. I know that this has been a topic that's been going on for a while, and Ford, I appreciate you coming and being able to share some of the ideas on that. The TEAC's website does show that there's currently nothing scheduled, but all the information about what's needed is there, and that website address was shared in the chat. I'm sure Michelle will also include it in the notes as they get posted. But we've kind of gone over on our time, but we appreciate it. It's been some good information share, and we like to have these discussions. Please be on the lookout over the next week for a Qualtrics survey request. Some of you as coaches have received a Qualtrics survey recently as part of this TDLR contract with TTI on motorcycle coaches, increasing motorcycle coaches in Texas to increase training. But keep an eye out for that, and we can get some feedback and get some of your votes on some of this, the lists and things that we started today from your input. We really appreciate sharing your thoughts and guiding this work. Again, this is your coalition, and we're here to help and support you as you do that work. So thank you. Mike?
I think that's it. Thank you, Kathy. Thank you, everybody, for participating today. Really wonderful activity in the chat window. Lots of great comments, a lot of stuff for TTI to take back and start to feed into the planning of the forum and the coalition meeting. So we thank you so much for that, because it's it is difficult sometimes for us to plan these, and your feedback really helps. So with that, if you have any other comments or anything, feel free to email Kathy or I. Kathy had her email up there a little bit ago. I see she's typing it again now. If anything comes up afterwards, if you need some information or something like that, please do contact us, and we'll do our best to get back with you as quick as we can. With that, I want to wish everybody a good rest of your week and have a safe weekend as well.
Okay.
Happy
Yeah.
Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.